All right then, job number 3 is where we're up to next. Job number 3 is the riveted corner seam with the lap on the outside for this particular project. What we want to have when we complete this is we want to have it measure 4 inches by 4 inches in a 90-degree angle by a 6-inch piece in width using a 1-inch lap on the secondary piece. So again, the lap is going to be on the outside for this particular project number 3 here. After that is complete, you will be graded plus or minus a 1/16 of an inch to the finished product. So let's turn the page then here in our book. And what we're looking at here is the layout views of the 2 parts. So I've taken the time to cut them already. And we've got 2 pieces that are measured both 6 inches. And then 2 pieces that are different, 3 and 5/16 by 4 plus 1 off our given dimensions, to a total of 5. So that works out. The next thing we need to do then is we'll start with the left piece. If you notice, our holes got to be marked a 1/2 inch down in 7/16 from the face or the edge of the piece back. Same on the bottom, a 1/2 inch up, and then there should land 2.5 inches in between them. So if you notice, our scribe does not have the 7/16 marking on that. So we're going to have to set him aside and utilize our square. So we're going to adjust that to 7/16 of an inch. This particular square, and I don't know if you can see it real well there or not, but the bottom one has 32 marks or 32 sections per every inch. And the top section is set up for 16 marks per inch, or rather in 16ths. So we're going to utilize, it doesn't really matter, we just got to make sure we set it at the proper 7/16 inch mark. So half of the would be 8/16, and then there's a 32nd, and then that brings us down to 7/16 right on the edge of that square. In order to mark these, so we got our square there set for 7/16 of an inch, we're going to set the piece on the edge of the table, mark the top side. A lot of times I like to put a little tail so I can see exactly which mark was mine, and we'll mark the bottom side according to what we need, again with the tail. After you've done that, you can loosen the square up, slide it the other direction, and if we've done this properly, if we've done it properly, the edge of the piece, if it was cut square, should line up with the 2 marks, the 2 given marks as well. So let's go ahead and mark them. Right there. Just make sure I get it lined up just right. With that, being careful not to move as you mark them, and then we'll just check it with the tape measure to see if we came out 7/16, and I'm not exactly happy with that. That looks like a 1/2 inch, so let me recheck my dimensions here. Eight, 7/16 right there. Kind of hard to see on the glare. Looks like we're still a little bit long. Right there. Let's try again. Yep, it appears to be long. So we'll remark that on the piece. And I don't know, maybe I moved with the camera and everything here. Be easy to have that off. This time I'll just use the edge product here. Looks like the one side turned out. Okay, now that I've remarked that, that looks better on 7/16 of an inch. So we've got that first center point lined up. Now we can measure down a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch up from each end. The scribe does have those marks, so we can utilize that again just by using the edge of the table, putting the marks. We don't have to go all the way across with those two. The last one is we got to measure our exact center of the piece. So there's a couple different routes that you can use to do that. Obviously you can just take the piece 6 inches and divide it by 2 and it'd be 3 inches, or you can add the 2.5 and the 1/2 inch and still come up with the 3 inch mark. So we'll use our square. 1, 2, 3. Using the bottom mark, we'll set it right on the button there. 3 inches. Set it again on the edge of the table, right where we want our mark. We'll mark this side, and then to check it, you can flip it over and mark the other side to make certain that you've got it right on the center of that piece. Right there at 3 inches. Okay, so now that we have that, I like to take my scratch awl and put my center marks where I'm going to drill the holes in that particular piece. And sometimes they're hard to see, so let me just make sure I got the right marks right there. And this piece was a scrap piece, so it has some extra marks on it. Make sure I get the right ones. And I don't want to hit my 1/2 inch mark, but I'm back a 1/16 of an inch. And we'll put our center point for our drill right where it belongs on that part. Right there. Now that piece is ready for the drilling procedure. I'm going to set him aside and we'll drill them all at once. Now let's go on to part B here. Part B requires from the top down, again, a 1/2 inch on center, therefore it would be a 1/2 inch up. Total width is 6 inches. They give you the dimensions in between, 2.5 plus the 1/2, obviously 3 inches on center there. And then again on the bottom, 2.5 plus a 1/2 would be the other 3 inches. But it is a little bit different considering we're going to have a bend mark to make this this riveted lap joint at a 90-degree angle. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our piece and check my dimensions. We should have 6 inches by 5 inches, and that works out just fine. And we'll start by making our first 1/2 inch scribe down the edge of the piece. That'll be the line-up hole for our center marks. Now I'm going to take my inch off the scribe and I'm going to mark my bend line from there, just like that. Now that those are done, the last two that I can use with the scribe would be the 1/2 inch from the top down and from the bottom up. And we'll get our center marks where they belong. So right there, and on the other side, right there. The last mark to make is our exact center of the piece, which should be, again, 1/2 of the 6, 3 inches, or you can add it, the 2.5 plus the 1/2 inch in. Notice how they've got the dimensions measured from the given points, but the edge of the piece is out here. So we got a 1/2 inch from here to the center of the hole, and then the next dimension line takes over another 2.5 inches. So we're looking at 3 inches. So we're going to take, again, we could use the square. I'm just going to do it a little differently this time. We'll use our tape measure, set it on the edge of the sheet, and this time I'm just going to measure it 3 inches to the piece there. And again, you can turn that around as well and measure that same 3 inches on center. After we have those marks, you're going to find that 1/2 inch scribe, and I'm going to put the center punch or use the scratch awl to make myself a small divot in order for that to prevent that drill bit from walking when we drill the 1/8 inch holes. And you don't have to be very aggressive with these. It's fairly thin metal, but it definitely does help create a indentation and keep that bit from walking around on you. So now that we have these two parts in play, we're going to drill the holes and put the bend on it. I prefer to drill the holes before I bend it so everything is flat, but I suppose it could be done other ways as well. So here we go. 1, 2, and 3. And we'll do our primary piece, our A part here. 1, 2, and 3. Again, with these parts, it really shouldn't matter. You should be able to put them together any direction, and the holes should line up for yourself there with them. Just like that. Notice there, this particular part was not made at a 1/2 inch. And what the reason being is when we bend this here, if that was exactly a 1/2 inch, they would run into each other, and you would never get the holes to seat properly up against that. So let's go ahead and put our bend on it, and let's finish it up. So let's go ahead and do it. So over here in the apron break, we're going to line it up on our 1 inch mark that we previously scribed. Lock it and pull it up to a 90-degree bend. So we won't completely close that apron. We're not going to pull it all the way up here. We're just going to pull it to a 90. And now we've got something that looks similar to that. I've also bent it with my lines to the inside of the sheet, so the outside is smooth and clean and everything looks decent. Now before I go ahead and assemble these, I've got to determine which side of the part the piece is supposed to be lapped on. Is it lapped on the outside or the inside like this? So we got to turn the page, and they're going to show us just another dimension here. Sorry, it's raining out. Dimension of 4 inch and 1 inch. And if we turn the page again, you'll see that it says to lap this portion of the piece to the outside of this portion here. Again, trying to keep the lines all to the inside with that. And it should measure, when we get this completed, to 4 inches by 4 inches by 6 inches tall. And look, here's our isometric 3D. So with that, let me get my pop rivet gun out and see if we can get this put together. It's on the outside. We've got our riveting gun, just like we did in the previous project. We're going to put the rivet in there, in between, sandwich it between the two pieces, install that. Sometimes you got to do one piece at a time. May have a slight burr in them yet. Making sure my lines are to the inside. And I see that this one has a burr on it, so I'm just going to knock that off there. There it is. I probably should have used a chisel or a file to do that, or a screwdriver would work too. So we got the first rivet lined up. I kind of get the other ones squared up where they belong there, trying to maintain the edges here. Not real happy with how that's set. It's not too bad, but I'm going to try the other end and see if I can just get that to seat where we want it to be. So I'm going to pull that rivet out and move down to the other end, see if I can get them edges to line up just a little better than they were. So let's start from here. Maybe that'll be a little better. Again, looking at my piece there, it looks like if I run the drill down these two holes, I'll be able to line them up and have both edges of the sheet lined up. And then before I set this, that'll turn out right on the 4 inch mark. So let's seat this for starters. So again, usually takes 2 to 3 clicks with the rivet gun. Release the handle all the way, and out comes your shank. If you look on the back side, you'll notice the pin was pulled up in there and it expanded that, and that's how it holds those two pieces together. So I'm just going to chase these with the drill. Slip a rivet in out here and see how it measures up. If I don't like it, I may move it. So that one's going to be just slightly over 4, but we're still under the 16th, so that'll meet our tolerances that we're looking for. So again, we'll tighten them up with our rivet gun. 1, 2, Release the handle, and out comes the pin. The center one I didn't quite get, so I'm just going to chase that again with the drill. Reline it up, and you'll notice on the back side that'll all still be hidden by our rivet there. And one more rivet. Notice I am putting the pins to the outside of the part, so there will be a nice smooth edge on the outside of the piece when it is complete. And I'm looking for, again, if there's bubbles or anything in the part there. That one turned out that there was just a little bit of a slight bubble there, but it's not out of line, and that should work fine. So we got 3 rivets in there. Let's see if our dimensions turned out. It should measure 4 inches by 4 inches by 6 inches in width. So here we go. Looks to be that is 6 inches on both edges. Same here and here. And these should both be 4 inches all the way across on our bend line, as well as the depth. Being we made that first mark, that 7/16 back here, it gave us some relief area in the piece, so it didn't slam right in there, and we were able to get our rivets in. So, okay, that'll complete project number 3.